Guys, this is crazy. A Nigerian American woman is currently trending on the internet after she revealed to the whole world how her fiancé, a white Danish man, scammed her and her entire family of over $300,000. Yahoo boys, they learn because this story will teach a lot of Nigerian women, a lot of African women, a lot of women out there to be careful of the kind of man they fall in love with. Not all that glitters is gold, and not be everybody way white be Oyibo. So Onyeka A is a 30-something-year-old Nigerian American who lives and works in Dallas, Texas, United States. And in June of 2022, she met a white man, a white, charming, handsome man by the name of Martin Anderson in Croatia while she was on a trip with her best friend Sarah. And it was love at first sight. They talked, they laughed, they walked by the sea. It was instant connection. According to her, Martin was calm and charming and spoke with so much confidence. To her, she has found the love of her life. But to him, he has found his next checkbook. When they met, they talked about themselves briefly. In Croatia, he told her that he traveled often for work and that he came from a wealthy Danish family. And I think this is what made Onyeka fall in love because, wow, a rich, tall, white man who is from a royal family, from the Danish lineage. And immediately before the trip ended, they exchanged Instagram. She went back to the USA and he went back to only God knows where. Onyeka was into real estate and tech. She was doing well for herself financially and had her own house and had already cleared her student loans. Martin also claimed he was into real estate too. When the trip ended and they went back to their respective places, they stayed in touch every day. Martin called and sent messages often. He told Onyeka that he was from a royal family with connections in Denmark. He even hinted that he had once been an athlete and was also an Olympic medalist, claiming that his family was linked to important people. Onyeka believed him so much because he spoke with so much confidence, care, and charisma. She never for once thought to Google this man or check if anything he was saying was true. She saw that he was white, charming, and confident, and she instantly believed him. Through late 2022, they traveled together to places like Monaco, Cannes, Saint-Tropez, and at some point, Onyeka had a head injury while they were in Cannes, a day before she returned, and she later said that it was supposed to be a warning sign that something wasn't right with her relationship with this man. But she did not pay attention. Why would she pay attention? This man was a fine, tall milk of honey. From a royal family, to her, again, she had hit a jackpot. The perfect man. However, to him, this was business in transaction. But she does not know yet. You see, Martins booked nice hotels and arranged fancy dinners and made their life look classy and rich. From the outside, he looked like a man with money and status. And Onyeka felt proud to be with him and trusted the life that he showed her. It wouldn't take long before problems started and before the cracks on the wall began to show themselves. It first started with Martin saying that his bank accounts were frozen and that money was delayed because of tax and legal checks that he needed to fix a property he had invested in. Onyeka claimed that he got into her head and made her believe that she was the one begging him to take money from her because she had offered help to him in the past many times, but he did not accept. Because he was always acting like he could handle it, and he eventually would handle it until now he could no longer handle them. Because all those time, this was the plan all along. He began asking Onyeka to help him with small emergency costs like hotel bills, flight changes, and at first Onyeka thought that this was okay because the money he was asking were very small and very manageable. And Onyeka agreed to give him this money because she cared for him and trusted his promises. By early 2023, the request increased. Martin started asking for thousands of dollars for things he called urgent, like apartment deposits, travel expenses, or fees to unlock accounts. Onyeka lent him the money, believing they were building a future together. Each time he promised to pay her back and soon, and used emotional words to keep her close. He also gave excuses about tax and accounts being frozen. Martin spoke about marriage and building a life together between Europe and the United States, and he painted a picture of big homes, family life, and travel. Friends felt things were moving too fast, but Onyeka believed his love was real and agreed to move forward with him. Martin spent a lot of time in Dallas, Texas, because he claimed he did not want to take her away from her family after visiting and seeing how close she was to them. Onyeka's friends and work partners met him and thought they looked happy together. Photos showed trips and fine dinners, but behind those images, Martin kept asking Onyeka for money, saying that everything would soon be settled and he would give her back the money. Even after they had a court marriage and Martins could not even afford a ring, the money problems did not stop. Martin still claimed his accounts in Europe were frozen and that he needed help with legal and personal fees. And Onyeka continued to support him, wanting to protect their marriage and believing his words. She sometimes hid her worries because she felt ashamed and confused. After all, everyone around her, friends and family, were envious of her relationship with this fine, white, tall Danish royalty. And she wanted to keep that image going. Over time, Onyeka noticed that his lifestyle did not match his claims, especially when she visited him in Denmark and saw that it was not giving the Denmark prince that he assured her. Still, she remained calm and tried to convince herself that everything would be alright. She also noticed that when he claimed he had no money, he still traveled and spent freely. This difference began to raise strong doubts. The more she observed, the more she saw that his words and actions were not adding up. At some point, he convinced her to quit her job because he said he was about to sell a major property and she agreed. A major turning point came when Onyeka discovered that Martin had a serious gambling problem. She saw signs of heavy online betting and large losses. When she confronted him, he admitted it and promised to stop. He cried and said he would change and get help. Onyeka wanted to believe him and tried to support his recovery. The situation became worse when Martin started asking Onyeka's family and friends for money. He told each person a different sad story and borrowed from them as well. Man, this guy is on something. I mean, it's bad enough that you're already treating this girl like this, but the moment, to me, you start borrowing money from friends and family, Lord have mercy. Not even his own friends and family, the girl's friends and family. And at this point, Onyeka had too many red flags. The fact that she's still in this relationship shows that this was not love even on her own part. She was too delusional. Onyeka girl, you are not the smartest person out there. It was when these cracks started to show that Onyeka decided to ask herself all these questions that she should have asked herself from the very beginning. This man said he was a Danish prince, right? And he said he had an Olympic medal, like he used to compete for the Olympics. And she finally went to do her background checking years later and many thousands of dollars later. And that was when she found out that, yeah, this man was not linked to any royal family from Denmark. And neither was he an Olympic medalist. Never competed for any Olympics, unless there was a category for fraud and scam and gambling. When she checked his background more closely, everything that he had told her about himself turned out to be a flat-ass lie. Even with all these things that Onyeka had discovered, even realizing that he was not a Danish prince and that he did not come from a royal family and that he was not wealthy and that his life was a fake life, Martin still used emotions to blind her judgments. According to her, he used emotions to keep her in control. He cried, begged, and promised to change. He admitted to everything, claiming that he did all this because he loved her, he fell in love with her, he does not want to lose her. And, she fell for this bullshit. And those were the moments that made Onyeka delay the marriage, hoping that he would change and promising that she would maybe continue into getting married with him if he changed. Because she believed that he was going to get better despite the fact that her trust was already fading. So said that Onyeka pushed him to seek treatment and face his gambling issues. And sometimes he would pretend like he was better, he would pretend like he was recovering, but it was just short-lived. Before she would know it, he had went back to the same circle of lies, deceit, and again, borrowing of money. Somewhere along the line, she took this young man to Nigeria for her grandmother's burial. And around this period of time, Martin's father also fell sick, had surgery, and died in the process. And she also went with him for that one's burial before returning back to Dallas. You would think at this point, with all this death happening in both sides of the family, she would come down from this ship and move on with her life. But no, my dear. Our Nigerian girl said she's gonna keep this white man because for some weird reason, I think she somehow thought there was still hope and thought that maybe somewhere along the line he would change. And at this point, let's face it, everybody is already envious of her and nobody knows that this was what she was going through in that relationship. According to the story, they later took many trips together and began planning their wedding while also working out a way to pay Onyeka's crypto friends whom he owed $200,000. They asked them to forgive $40,000 and accept $160,000 instead. Soon, new excuses and emergencies appeared, followed by fresh requests for money and the pattern repeating itself again and again. On a particular incident while they were in Dallas and Onyeka was the one paying for everything, she asked him for some money and he lied that his Chase bank account had issues. She made him go to the bank. He went in alone and came out with only $1,000 instead of $5,000 as he promised. They eventually went back home and he tried to gaslight her by saying that she was insulting him, but she was already seeing the clear red flags, something that she should have seen since. She later left the house and spoke to a friend. She eventually took his card and secretly checked his Chase bank account. He had only 34 cents in his bank account, which he claimed he was having issues with. She confronted him and he said he moved the money. Onyeka founded the website where Martin has been betting and gambling away thousands of dollars. Friends who had loaned him money started to speak out. They shared similar stories of pressure, lies, false promises. Onyeka gathered messages, bank records, and screenshots. Together, they saw a clear proof that this was a long deception, not a single mistake. At some point, it seemed she almost forgave him. They discussed a proper marriage and possibly a wedding in Nigeria. Onyeka eventually found out more things about Martins, like the fake house he told her he sold and almost convinced her to invest $100,000 in, later reducing it to $20,000, which she refused. The house actually belonged to an interior designer in Germany. However, she still hoped truly he owned 2 other houses. They continued traveling for events while preparing for their wedding and paying off the debts of $160,000 in crypto debts, in cryptocurrency, while also putting aside money for their wedding with the support of Onyeka's parents. Around this time, Martin's green card got approved. In mid-2025, she caught him gambling again. He tried to convince her that one of his frozen accounts has been released, but he kept scheduling fake payments for the wedding to her mother. She confronted him about it and he lied. He tried to make her feel bad and claimed that he wanted a divorce, and it worked because she tried to reason with him. While acting like he was no longer interested in the marriage, he still said he was going to pay her back. At this point, Onyeka had to tell her family members, and that was when she found out that Martin owed her sister $3,000. Her close friends also told her that Martins owed them money and always claimed that he was going to use it to surprise her. Her cousins, co-workers, and other friends also said that they had lent him money, and it was at this point that the whole love vanished from her eyes. I guess at the initial time when he was borrowing money from the friends, she wasn't aware, until now that she finally got to hear of it. She reached out to Martin's ex, whom she had initially blocked on Instagram, and the ex told her that he had tried to warn her but could not contact her. The ex had a similar experience with him as he borrowed money from her, her friend, and her family and eventually stole from her. She also found out that when she met Martins, he was still dating the ex-girlfriend. Onyeka reached out to Martin's elder sister, who was a police officer. She said he had a gambling addiction and was always in debt. She had tried to help him and even sent him to China to work, but he only began owing people there again and again. She also told her parents that they already had a court marriage, and her parents told her that Martin had asked them for money too. However, they promised to support her. She reached out to other wealthy relatives and found out that Martins had borrowed nearly $30,000 from a rich family friend. The family said they initially thought she planned the entire scam with Martins because she was Nigerian. The final breaking point was when Onyeka understood the full scale of the damage. It was not just emotional, but also a heavy financial loss for many people connected with her. She felt hurt, anger, and shame. The betrayal affected her and everyone connected to Martin. Martin also began trying to manipulate her again, but she already saw him for who he was. He tried to approach her, but she screamed and said that she did not want to see him again. In November of 2025, Onyeka ended the marriage and completed the divorce steps in Dallas, Texas. After that, she went public with a TikTok series called The Danish Deception. shared evidence, and spoke openly about how the deception happened. She said she would not give up until he paid for his crime. Some people, companies, and women reached out to her about Martin. She initially did not mention his name, but people on social media were able to find out who he was. The videos she made on TikTok went viral, and people were shocked at how a charming man built a false life and used love to gain trust and money. Any viewers shared similar stories from their own experiences.